Decisions Unlimited, the only organization of its kind, dedicated exclusively to helping people from all walks of life become better decision makers. I am Jonathan Rogers. Decisions Unlimited is my creation. I have dedicated my life to carrying out its mission. My devoted agents, Lisa, Alex, and Henry. With their skill and enthusiasm, they have helped make our organization what it is today. It is for those who agonize over difficult choices that Decisions Unlimited was founded. One such person is David Franklin. David is in charge of the design section of an electronics company. He is struggling with a different kind of decision, one he hasn't had to face before.
Have you made your decision, David?
Mr. Brewster, I have two possibilities.
Look, David, what's the problem? You've had 2 weeks to pick your replacement. Now that you're head of design, we need someone to run your old department.
I'm a design engineer, Mr. Brewster, not a personnel director. I've never had to do this before.
David, you're the one person best qualified to make this choice. You know the job. You know the people.
It's getting worse, Chief. David is no closer to a decision than he was a week ago.
Is there a deadline for the decision?
Boss says he has 2 more days.
Do you see any hope?
He's really in trouble.
Remember, day after tomorrow at the latest.
Bring him in.
Right, Chief.
Right, Chief.
Right, Chief.
This is Decisions Unlimited. Those of you who are familiar with our operation won't be shocked by what you have just seen. But to those of you who are new, let me explain. Decisions Unlimited is an organization dedicated to one principle: to make the world a better place through better decision making. Some of our techniques are a little unusual, but as you will see, our goal is a noble one. And the gentleman you have just met, David is his name, was facing a difficult decision when he came to us.
Difficult? It's impossible. Here I am, the head of the whole design department, and I have to decide who's to replace me in my old job. I've never hired or fired anyone before. Personnel always did that. No matter who gets the job, somebody else is going to be unhappy. And it's got to be the right person. Not just for the company, but for me. It's my department. It's hopeless.
With what David knew about decision making, it was hopeless. But in just a short time here at Decisions Unlimited, he has learned some of the basic skills of the decision-making process. He began in our Values Center. Here he found out that a good decision starts with knowing what's important to you. In David's case, the relevant values were those that he would expect in his replacement. His next step took place in our goals room. Here, David thought about his objectives, what he wanted to attain in the future. That goal was to make his company the best in the business, and to achieve that long-term goal, he knew that he needed a more immediate one, to make his division of the company more productive. And with his values and goals to guide him, he was ready for the next stage, alternatives. A record was made of each alternative. In his case, they were the candidates for the job he had to fill. He learned that for him to make the best decision, he needed to expand the number of his choices. He used his imagination and an open mind to think of as many alternatives as he could. Then he began the process of collecting information about his alternatives, information that would aid him in making a better decision. He talked to personnel, to other managers, and to the candidates themselves. As he collected information, he found some more alternatives that he hadn't thought of before. And his information also helped him narrow his choices down to 4. Now David has accumulated the raw materials that he needs to begin the final stages of his decision-making process. He's ready to put his values, goals, alternatives, and information together to predict outcomes. David, you look a lot better. Welcome to Outcomes.
I feel a lot better. I haven't made my decision yet, but somehow I think I'm headed in the right direction.
You've accomplished a great deal. You've determined what you want by setting goals, and you've given yourself more freedom of choice by expanding your list of alternatives.
Yeah, but what about all this?
Lisa, now it's time to look into the future, which means predicting outcomes. To do a good job of predicting outcomes, you've got to have your goals, your values, and your information close by.
What about my alternatives?
Well, it's pretty obvious where they should go. This machine is going to help you to understand this important stage of the decision-making process.
A jukebox?
Why not?
Sure. Why not?
We're going to take each of your alternatives and try to predict its outcomes. What would logically happen if that alternative was chosen? Let's try the first one.
Hello, David. Let's talk about your first alternative, Sally Parr.
Well, Sally works in the department, so she knows the people. And she's creative, too.
Fine. Can you predict an outcome for Sally? What might happen if she is chosen?
Well, the department could become more creative. Under her, they might come up with some really new concepts.
See, that wasn't so hard, was it?
I don't believe what I'm doing.
Oh, Lisa, I think this can use some adjustment here.
Right, Chief. Adjustment completed, Chief.
Now, let's study this outcome. First, let's consider its desirability.
Desirability?
Well, desirability simply means how desirable it is to you based on your goals and values.
You mean whether it helps me get closer to my goal of making my division more productive?
Precisely. Now, how desirable would you say this particular outcome is?
Well, creativity is one of the prime ingredients of productivity.
So, how would you rate it?
It's a pretty good outcome.
Lisa, desirability, pretty good. Thank you. Now, let's consider this outcome's probability.
You mean the chance of this outcome actually happening?
Right.
Well, I know she's creative. The question is whether she can inspire other people to be creative. I think she could do it. I'd say it's an 80% chance.
Lisa, probability 80%.
So this outcome is pretty desirable and has an 80% chance of happening. She might be a good choice, except...
Except what?
Besides making the department more creative, making Sally the manager might have other outcomes.
Ah, yes. Every alternative has its flip side.
Okay, David. I'm ready for another outcome.
Sally's never been a manager before. The department might not be as efficient with her running it.
Outcome, less efficient department. How about desirability?
Not too good.
And probability?
It's possible.
Here, you try it. Now, can you think of any other outcomes?
No, that's about it. Gives me a pretty good picture. I think I'm ready to make a decision on this alternative.
Now, wait a minute, David. One step at a time. It's important that you go through this process for all your alternatives before you start to narrow them down to the best choices. David will go through this process for all his alternatives. First, by predicting possible outcomes. Next, he'll use his values and goals to rate each outcome in terms of its desirability. And then he'll look at the probability of each outcome using all the information he's gathered.
I don't believe it. After all this work, all this time, this place is a fraud.
What's the problem, David?
Look, I came here to make a decision. I went through every step, just like you said. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Important work.
Well, I did it. And now look. There's not a single choice that doesn't have a chance of turning out badly. There's not a single sure thing there. Everything is risky.
You're right.
I'm right?
Every alternative carries some risk. There's no sure thing because the future is unknown.
Then I may as well flip a coin.
But then you'd be giving up all the work you've done, work that gives you the best odds of making a good decision.
So I should choose the alternative with the smallest risk.
Risk is only one ingredient. Now, it's important, but it's not the whole story. You also have to consider the potential benefits of each alternative.
All four of these people could probably do a good job. But I want the best person. I know all the facts. I know all the risks involved. But logically, there's no obvious choice.
Well, maybe logic isn't the total answer. Now, up to this point in your decision-making process, all your activities have been very logical. Analyzing your values and goals, generating alternatives, collecting information. Now, that kind of work is done primarily by just one side of the brain, the left side. But if you're going to make a good decision, you have to use your whole brain. Comfortable, Henry? Good man. Now, as you can see, the brain is divided into two halves, left and right. And those two halves have very different functions. The left side is the logical side. And that includes language and reason. That's the side you've been using mostly up to now. But the other side, the right side, has hardly been used at all. It's the emotional side, the center of your imagination and intuition. It's the source of your hunches and your gut feelings, and you've got to pay attention to it if you're going to reach a good decision.
I can understand how my left brain works. But how do I listen to my right brain?
First of all, you must realize that it operates differently from your left brain. Your right brain works best when you're totally relaxed, when you're not consciously trying to make your decision.
It's hard to believe that just sitting around and not thinking can really help me make my decision.
Ah, that's your left brain talking. You've got to have faith that your right brain is going to help you, and it will help you if you do the kind of activities that stimulate it. Exercise is one way to turn off your left brain and turn on the right. Working with your hands helps to promote right brain activity too. And if you really want to turn on your right brain, just do nothing. By letting your mind wander, you're allowing your intuitions and emotions to rise to the surface where they can help you in the decision-making process.
Ray and Tom just aren't right. Andy's a good manager, and he knows something about design.
but I just don't feel his personality will fit with that group. So, Sally. Lots of creativity. She knows the people. Something tells me she might do a fantastic job. It's a chance, but it's worth taking.
You did it. You used both sides of your brain.
Sally is the best choice.
How do you feel about your decision?
Well, like I said, I know it's not perfect, but I know it's right. At least I think it is.
There's one more step to tell you if your decision is a good one. Remember these?
Sure, they're my goals.
Do you think the choice you've just made will help you achieve these?
If Sally comes through, it's certainly going to make our division more productive. And that will lead to my long-term goal.
Good. That's the real test of a decision. Any decision. You know, this isn't the last time you'll be going through this process. In fact, I suspect you'll be making quite a few decisions in your new job.
I guess so.
Well, what's the matter, David?
Maybe I should wait a few days. I really hate to tell the others I've chosen Sally.
Now watch it, David. You're making a big mistake.
What's that?
The process of making a decision isn't complete unless you take action, which means make a plan and carry it out. In this case, decide how and when you're going to inform all the people affected by your decision. Then, do it. A good decision maker has the courage to see his decisions through to the end. Uh-oh, there's the hotline. David, congratulations. Keep up the good work. Come in.
Chief, we've got an emergency. A family can't decide where to go on vacation. It's gotten nasty.
All right. You better bring him in.
We thought you'd say that.
Why don't we go? Oh, wait a minute. I want to sit on the beach. I want to go see. I haven't seen my mother in a year. Go right, Ohio.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
true.
but we're paying for